Well, folks, welcome to episode 3 of A Pint of Scotch, where the whiskey is aged, the beer is fresh, and the ideas are cutting edge. In each episode, 3 spirit aficionados who also happen to be industry leaders share their thoughts, ideas, and sometimes fuel-induced rants on leadership, empathy, people, technology, and of course, culture. I'm Brian Ross. I've got over 20 years' experience in helping businesses get more value from their technology investments. I've worked across a broad range of industries and technologies in various roles from engineer to architect to senior leadership. The common factor I've seen in successful transformation is an understanding that we mustn't forget people when we're assessing how to integrate new technologies. In this episode, we're going to talk about the rise of the machines, how artificial intelligence is gaining traction in the enterprise. How much of it is hype? Is it worth investing in? Will public cloud steal everyone's lunch? Let's find out today's episode. But first, let me introduce my co-hosts, JT and Gotham.
Hello, everybody. JT Perry. Similar to Brian, I have over 20 years in the industry. Everything from a developer to engineer. Spent a lot of the last recent years focused on transformation. Most of my industry experience is in the healthcare adjacent insurance worlds. And similar to Brian, look, at the end of the day, the technology is the easy part. It's the people that are a challenge and leading them to get them on board where you're going. Gotham?
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Gautam Palapa, and like these two fine gentlemen, I also have about 20 plus years of experience. I'm a modernization expert, and I've been steering transformations under my belt for a very, very long time. My passion is more than just technology, though. It's about infusing empathic leadership and innovation into the DNA of organizational culture and helping enterprises achieve their business outcomes through accelerated value delivery. I'm super thrilled for this podcast today, and I'm excited to talk about unifying human insight with value, with AI's capabilities, and I can't wait to hear and share experiences and thoughts with all of you.
Well, as we said, today is all about artificial intelligence. So look, whether it's from enhancing customer experience or streamlining their operations, what I'm seeing is vendors are super keen just now to convince businesses that they're going to be left behind unless they invest right now. So what I'd love to hear is, what have you guys seen in terms of the pressure that those business leaders are seeing to incorporate AI into what they're doing? Sorry, JT, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I almost want to push a little bit on the precipice. Like all the conversations I'm having, and they're largely, given my background in the healthcare world right now, while yes, vendors are all kind of seeing the land grab, right, and trying to go get the money, most of the pressure, I think, is coming from seeing what competitors are doing or CEOs feeling that this could really be the golden ticket to the future, right? To get that much more productivity or solve that problem that's unsolved. I actually think this is one of the few times where this push is not, at least not yet, vendor driven. Gotham, what are you seeing?
So I have a different take. And I try to connect this to a situation that we've all gone through. Remember the early internet era where everyone thought that having a static web page on the web was somehow going to change everything, change the business, even solve world hunger? When I'm talking to executives and when I'm talking to leaders who are compelled and they feel that compulsion to introduce AI into their organizations, it feels that way. So I'm actually seeing that the AI adoption is like a dual-edged sword. On the one end, there's this relentless push, almost a gold rush kind of mentality where they're promising transformative outcomes through AI. They paint the picture of AI as a panacea for all business challenges, from customer experience to operational efficiency. So that's what's happening out there on one end. However, on the flip side, what many people are realizing is, even though all the vendors are saying that everyone uses AI and they've been using it for 20 years or so on, the reality is that many businesses are realizing that adoption of AI is not plug and play. It's not rewriting a web page into a modern stack and just fronting it out there. it requires a fundamental understanding of not only technology, but also the alignment with business objectives. That's the real pressure the businesses should focus on, not just to adopt AI, but to do so more thoughtfully and responsibly. And that's what I'm seeing. And I keep telling a lot of these executives that in the race to integrate AI into businesses, the wise and the successful don't just sprint, they navigate.
Do you know, I think that's the key thing. At the moment, they've got this big hype cycle around AI, and I don't think we're at the top of it yet. I think there's a lot of distance to go. So, everyone is raving about these new tools. There's new startups appearing on the daily. But my question's always been really like, what's the why of this? Like, is AI really going to be that useful? Like, sure, I've had fun writing poems about cloud native nostalgic Beth. It's helped me, even an ungifted buffoon like me, create some really surreal images, which are great for websites or blog posts, etc. But I'm not sure how that translates into helping professionals or to boosting revenues. Like, there was an interesting study where they looked at professionals in a room and challenged them to complete tasks with or without the help of AI. Who'd like to guess how that went?
It
Uh,
depends, right? I mean, I'm
I
going to
would
give it
guess.
a management consultant answer. It really depends. It depends upon how skilled you were before you supplemented your techniques and tools and your processes with additional technology. I think a lot of it does depend upon that. And it's not a cookie cutter approach. It's not like a widget that you're using, and it's probably not like one of your workflow processes that you're bringing in that magically improves your success rate or your creativity. So it really does depend on how talented you were to begin with. That's my take to
Hmm.
start, right?
In a lot of ways, right, and to go very technology focused, I think the interesting thing about the AI hype cycle is it's almost starting in the business in a lot of places, right? And that's not universal, but as opposed to, right, the container wave, right, where the initial thing was, well, let's just throw everything into containers, just get it into a container, right? And where I worked with a customer to where they had, right, WebSphere in a container, and it was like, well, I think you're missing the point of what we're trying to do, right? And I think the AI is kind of that too. Like the places where I'm seeing it be successful and be incredibly useful is where somebody identifies a specific business problem, understands the business process, which I think is the biggest key, right? And the people and what they do today, and says, I can use AI to make this better so that, to your point, Brian, the why, right?
Yeah.
So that I can do X or Y is
Yeah.
where it's being really valuable. But yeah, like every other hype cycle, we're seeing everybody be like, well, just throw AI at it, right?
Yeah.
And you're getting the outcome you would expect, a whole lot of dollar spend without moving any business goal, because a lot of times I don't think people knew what the business goal was so far.
Yeah, so what you said, JT, it reminded me of this. Recently, I saw an advertisement where they were talking about AI as a co-pilot in developing apps, and the screen that they showed was COBOL. And they were actually using AI to convert these COBOL processes, these mainframe processes, and convert it into something modern. I mean, that is a fantastic use case. If you can do that and you can do it without losing your sanity, more power to you. Um, I had the privilege of working with a biotech organization a while back. And one of the things they were doing was using AI technologies to predict the probability of someone, their risk vector of having cancer. And that's a super noble goal. Like they were using it for preventative measures and to find if there was a propensity to get some kind of a cancer. And that helps with improving the human quality of life. That's such a noble goal. So there are things like that that really help. There are specific business cases. I think the question is not, and we've seen this time and time again, this cycle repeats itself where we, especially in the industry, say, oh, here's the new shiny. This is the solution for everything. Where am I going to put it? Like we saw it with the microservices, with the containers, with blockchain, Kubernetes. Everything has a purpose, but we try to get the ROI from it by shoehorning it into every possible thing. And that's where I resonate with finding the why. The why is really, really important before you even start to do the how.
You know, I think it's really interesting hearing you guys chat about AI because you use many of the same words that I find coming into my mind when I talk about this stuff. And it's less about the tools and it's more beginning to ask questions about the data set, for example. So one of the things that was mentioned there was, well, it depends, or are these people already skilled in this task or is it brand new to them? Does it have an impact on creativity rather than just getting perhaps a functional task done? Um, in this particular survey, it was really interesting. So these are professionals, so they've already got some level of training in what they're trying to achieve. And what they found was that participants using AI finished 12% more tasks, completed them 25% faster, and produced 40% higher quality results. That's pretty wild, right? On face value. But when they actually dug a little deeper into the data, what they found was that when they looked at the skill levels of the participants, although they're all professionals, the bottom half skilled people found a 43% improvement in their abilities because of AI. But the top half only gained 17%. And I think this comes back to your point, which is if you are a distance away from where you need to be, AI can be a really good tool to boost. Whereas if you're already towards the top of your game, AI's got less of a helping hand, I think, to play. And perhaps that's the same. If I think about me, the buffoon, trying to draw something, if you put a pen and some paper in front of me, it's going to be terrible. If you give me Midjourney or one of the other tools, I can create something pretty compelling. But that's me. If I had that someone, a professional artist who has the Adobe Creative Suite at their fingertips, will they get the same boost out of something like Midjourney? So I think that kind of makes sense. The other
Yeah.
part, and
So
perhaps, sorry,
no,
I,
go ahead, Brian. This is resonating a lot with me. So go ahead.
yeah, go for it, Brian. Yeah, please.
so I was just going to say they found the negative part of AI too, and I think this is perhaps the creative part you mentioned. And this is when they looked at the more challenging tasks that they set people. Now, humans, without any AI, had about an 85% success rate, which is pretty decent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something interesting happened, though, when we gave some of them ChatGPT. They only managed 60% accuracy. So somehow, by adding a tool where the task was perhaps too complex for AI, the human ability was reduced because we
Yeah.
perhaps trusted AI,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe there's something there, right? So I think it's really important, as you said, Gotham, like we can't leave humans out of the mix,
Okay.
either whether it's for creativity or whether it's to question whether what we're seeing is right or whether it's going to resonate with an audience. I think that's really, really important.
Yeah.
We've all seen some of the fun use cases of this hallucinations of AI, but those type of stats, particularly around those kind of failings, if you like, can't be good for business, even if it does come with a productivity boost. We're going to be really careful. So, what would you guys suggest that businesses look at when they're beginning to think about AI products in their business, or in fact, people developing AI products right now? How do they try and mix those two pros and cons together?
So
Big thing that
Joe.
jumps out to me, and two like real cases that have resonated with me, but one good, one cautionary tale. Is a make sure to what we already talked about. What problem are you trying to solve? So, really close with somebody who's on the revenue management side of healthcare, which look, the U.S. healthcare system is a whole other topic for this, but revenue management being on the doctor side or the provider side, the group that does all the billing, but then they're also the ones that do the infamous prior authorization, right? Going to the insurance company and saying, can I please do this, right? That kind of thing. And they've found an incredible lift of using AI to pull those together. And some of those reasons are some of the biggest reasons why that prior authorization, you end up in this deny appeal loop, is a billing problem, like literally using the wrong code, right? I put the code for your arm is broken instead of back pain. And so then you end up in this loop of, no, you can't do a back surgery for arm pain, right? That kind
Yeah.
of thing. So a lot of error correction there, but also in that they've used it through a lot of training of actual appeals that are or requests that have worked and all of that to make sure all the appropriate information is in there. So come to find out, the other big reason it gets turned down is the providers just haven't submitted enough or the right information to allow the insurance company to approve it, right, from that perspective. And so they're seeing an incredible lift by that. And by the way, in the world today, it has to be done by a doctor. And so if you think about the number of resources that have been spent trying to create these prior authorization forms and fill out this information, it's somebody who instead could actually be treating a patient. So what they've used now is for AI to generate this and then doctors to review it. And to your earlier point, Brian, they've learned so much that they need to carefully review these things, right? A little bit of an irony. I actually know they're working with an insurance company that's using AI, and so I just actually have this vision of we now have two AI systems arguing. But that's another side of the story. The other real quick cautionary tale, and Gotham, I really want to hear what you said. I think is Rachel Stevens from Redmonk just released a blog post about where she used AI to help generate headshots for her. Right, she needed a more modern headshot, and it was a little bit of an experiment. And in a lot of ways, like the results were pretty cool. But what it really brought out is all the bias confirmation, right? And all the problems and nightmare. The first, or I should say the first, I don't know exactly where it was in the cycle of this, right? She ended up with these frankly over sexualized images, right? And you can go read her blog post for what that was, but you know, I somebody's definition of ideal weight or dimensions and stuff like that, which was just ridiculous, right? And while that in itself is a big problem and deep fakes and all of that, the thing that really brought out is even in a business context, what biases are coming through there and what are you doing to catch them from that perspective?
Yeah.
Gotham?
No, that's interesting. That's great. So you've heard me talk about this a number of times, but I'm going to reiterate it because this is so valid right now. The way that we apply AI is really important, right? Where we are applying it is important. And both of you have stressed upon that. And Brian, that study that you quoted is really interesting. I want to get to that in a bit. But what I want to say is when we're starting to find out the business cases where we can use AI, we need to focus on what are high value activities for humans and what are low value activities. I think we need to start there because when we are as humans trying to perform repetitive tasks, we're going to be very prone to errors. And JT, your example of filling forms and claims processing, as humans we tend to make a lot of errors because some of these are very repetitive and we are obviously going to make mistakes and things are going to blow up. So those are low value activities because the where we spend most of our creative uses is going to be in high value innovation, trying to come up with much more customer centric features or bringing delight or reducing pain for the customer. So that's where we probably want to start focusing on. And this is where probably workplace automation or process flow automation is so valuable. Like you can start there. You can get at least a 40% lift out of the gate if you optimize, you do a proper value stream and identify which are the things that are mundane, which can be systemic, and then have the AI do it. There are repetitive patterns, there are templates. AI is really good at understanding these patterns. It is a pattern matcher at the very, very basic level. And then it can perform these things well. And then we as humans can start focusing on what are the cooler, more innovative things that we can do. But when we are focusing on that, we can also use AI technologies to supplement and act as a co-pilot to elevate what are the things we are creating. Your study, Brian, that you quoted, where people who were normally 85% accurate suddenly dropped to around 65%, is because and you said we trusted the AI a lot, but I think we became complacent. I think we decided that the technology is going to do a lot of our work, so we don't have to verify it. We don't have to confirm it. We are just taking it as something that is true because all of us have been trained so much with search engines. We type something, we get results back. We assume it's real because it's on the interweb, so it has to be real. So the AI, I mean, the generative AI has been trained with the same model. So you have the same searches, you have the same confirmation biases, you have all these other things that manifest. We need to be much more responsible right now, and be much more ethical and take a look at it and start evaluating what's coming out, and not use it as a technological crutch, but instead use it to elevate our outcomes and our outputs that we're creating. Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, it's an enabler of technology, right? AI is not going to just manifest and create a lot of cool things automatically by itself. It takes prompts from you. It is going to drive and it is going to help you. It's not just a fancy tool in our toolbox, it's a master key that is helping unlock potentials that we didn't even know existed. So I think we need to have a little bit more caution when we're doing all these things.
So look, I think we could talk about this for a long time because there's so much, it's such a deep trough of problems and issues we can dive into. Even all things you've got there, I've got a little list aside here going, no, we don't have time to talk about any of these things. Another episode perhaps. So I think before we wrap up for today, one of the things that I'd like to do is just change gears a little bit and think about what's coming down the road and what advice we might have for business leaders. I think one of the things I can see happening is if we're putting a lot of effort into AI, either we're building something ourselves into the enterprise, or we're a startup and we've got this cool new idea that we're launching. Like, the problem is that industry is moving so quickly at the moment. Is there not a massive risk of commoditization? You know, are public clouds, our big players, going to come along and just steal everyone's lunch and put everyone out of business? Like, how is a business leader meant to react in an industry that's moving this fast? And even if we look at how quickly ChatGPT became, the most used application, like, how do you possibly respond to that if you're running an enterprise?
All right, JT,
Do
you
you
want
want
to
to
go
go
first?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think I'll come back to, I believe AI has incredible promise, right? Right. Some of the most opportunity we have seen in a significant amount of time, right? Maybe ever. I don't know if it's but definitely a real potential. But that doesn't mean you need to flip your whole business on its head today, right? Now, if you're a startup, that's a different story. I'm using my like enterprises. Find the place to go and try with an expected outcome, right? And realize it's not just a toy. It can be a toy. You can go do that. But from your enterprise perspective, right now is not the time to go rewrite your entire claim system if you're an insurance company based on AI, right? But if you want to process incoming prior authorization requests, to use my earlier example, and have some humans look at that and see if you can get some process efficiency, more accuracy, fraud detection, things like that. There's significant opportunity, and I would do that. I would find small opportunities to learn with it, like everything else, and learn. Boy, the ethical and the biases and all of that thing is just as critical. And the last big piece I would say, and I come back to what I think all of us said in our intros, is talk to your people. Right. There are a lot of people. I think we can sit here at the technology side, we can sit here at the C-suite side and go, AI is going to make us X more efficient. And what folks, especially in recent economy, are going to hear is you are going to lay me off. And so do not put the people in a secondary position. Make sure you bring them in, you talk to them. In a lot of ways, you're actually probably not going to lay them off. You're going to get them to go do more productive things. But how do you have this conversation? So don't forget the people aspect of this. You can get really caught up in the AI opportunity. So, Gotham, what's your take?
I love that you mentioned that, because I was going to mention it too. So technology, even things like generative AI, and is can only be an enabler or an accelerator to value. It's truly the people that are going to generate the value. That's something that we all need to recognize and understand. Um, so in this current AI boom, all the businesses are at a crossroads, right? So the influx of all these AI startups and the integration of generative AI in almost every product, it does raise the specter of commoditization. I would agree with that. However, What I also feel that it presents an opportunity for strategic differentiation. The key lies in not how the AI is integrated into the fabric of your business. It's not just about using the capabilities or having the capabilities, but what are you going to do about it? Like, how do these capabilities tailor to enhance your specific value chain, all the way from creation to consumption to operations to customer engagement? That's where you're going to be a differentiator. So, for business leaders, what I would say is the focus should be on leveraging AI to innovate rather than just to automate. Like I said, we start with automation and then afterwards you bring in the supplementation. It's about embedding AI in ways to amplify your business model and value prop. So, think of AI as a component in a large orchestration where it plays a pivotal role, but it isn't the sole performer. And that differentiation is really going to set you apart. Like, there are going to be hyperscalers, there are going to be other large organizations who have a lot of budget, who can invest in these things, they have the expertise, and they are going to come with commoditized versions of it. But taking that commoditized version and converting it to your unique needs, because at the end of the day, this is a learning mechanism. It learns from your data, trying to solve your problem. So in order to avoid that commoditization, these businesses and leaders must evolve from using AI as a generic off the shelf solution to embedding it as a bespoke enhancer of their unique value proposition.
So look, I think there's a lot in this subject, and I say we could have many episodes on this topic alone. So let me just try and summarize what I think we've discussed today. So I think first and foremost, I think we all agree that AI is here to stay. This is not going to be a fad that disappears. And I don't think anyone really knows how far this will go, or indeed how quickly it's going to change. Right now, I think what we're saying is AI already has practical applications for novices and professionals alike. But we do need to remember that this isn't magic. It's very clever pattern matching. So although it may look like human intelligence, it's really just, it's like a really fancy autocorrect, right? So I think we just need to be careful about recognizing the limits, and we don't lose our own voices, our own creativity by trusting everything that comes out of this little magic box of tricks. From a business perspective, it's interesting. Originally, I was thinking that businesses really need to think about where they put money or where they don't, about the investment side. But I think what you guys have convinced me of today is that businesses instead really need to focus on the why. You shouldn't be bringing AI in because everyone else is. You should be thinking about how AI is going to complement your people, how it's going to give them a new tool to make them more productive rather than trying to replace bodies entirely. I think that would be a crying shame for us to lose the soul of the communication we have with customers or indeed with each other. So with that, let's wrap up this episode. Thank you so much for everyone for tuning in. And as always, please share your thoughts and your stories with us on social media or in the comment section. Remember, whether it's technology, leadership, or the beverage that you're currently on, it's the depth and the flavor of the journey that counts. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.